Welcome to Truth Radio, reasoned-based programming with your host, the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Today, we'll be talking about avoiding truth, which is done by many people and many religions. So tune in. You know, it's interesting how many different ideas there are and opinions, or a countless opinion, and in the arena of intellectual engagement and the further and expansive arena of social engagement, which includes these days social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and also video and audio, as we know, and like this broadcast is another voice out there. It just boggles me at this day and age how people still do not understand how to present their points of view and how to respect what has been established and things that have been disproven from an argument. And they insist and continue in a relentless expulsion of ideas or messages. I would have to say propaganda that they have learned. It hasn't been reasoned, but these are things that they've learned. They've picked up from others, and they just repeat it almost like parrots, with no thought process at all. It's just simply repeating and obfuscating truth at every turn. And so what we're going to talk about today really affects everybody, because at one point or another, you guys have all fallen victim to the same mistake. It's a mistake that's done quite innocently, but somebody has to say something and teach about it so that you can know and understand what you're doing, and that it's actually inappropriate. It leads to error and does not lead to truth. And that thing that's done is that, and we do that, I know for a fact as a counselor, that couples engage in this all the time. When you're having your marital spats, this is the reason these spats tend to just get out of control, and they get out of hand, and nothing gets done. In the religious apologetical arena, where people of one faith are debating with people of another faith, simply this goes on all the time, because there is no intention of learning in those debates. It's just the intention is just to defend your point of view at all costs, and it has to be realized that even at the denial of truth itself, of fact, you will still continue to defend your religious point of view. So that then does not equals truth. Just so that's another thing we're going to talk about today. In social areas, you have this also being a point of conflict and of great emotional and mental distress, and when we're dealing with the social media, because of course people are creating conflict with this. It's not appropriate, not because you don't like conflict, but because the social engagement and the post, the thread, or whatever have you, had nothing to do with what you guys are fighting about now. So this is the kind of thing that goes on all the time. This past week, I've seen each instance of that. And that's why I've decided this is the first Truth Radio program, and that's why I get my signals from a higher authority. And when I saw that pattern rise this past week, I said, you know what, this is going to be the first program of Truth Radio, first topic, and that's why we're here today with it. So let's get into that. Now, what we're going to look at is, first we're going to look at Facebook and some of the things that go on. And on the internet, there's certain rules. I don't know if most people, I know this for a fact, they just do not know the rules of engagement on the internet and on social media in particular. You see this all the time, a failure to understand this concept. You see it all the time on forums. Forums are notorious for this type of inappropriate interaction. And what do I mean? I mean particularly when there's a thing on forums that are called, when the person puts a post in, it's what's called starting a thread. The person who starts a thread, it's like an author of a book, you see. That thread belongs to that person. So that's the first thing you have to realize. You have to realize that whoever starts the discussion belongs to that person. Okay, the same thing holds true on Facebook. Facebook is just another form of a forum, and these things develop from the old days, from bulletin boards online. That was the first thing that was around, was bulletin boards, and then they developed into forums, and then they developed into and then Facebook became an open forum, and it just developed from there. And you got a lot of permutations of the same idea, but still the etiquette should still be there, the understanding that whoever starts puts a post up, it is their post, it is their opinion or their statement. The post belongs to that person. So what is supposed to be done by the others reading and then participating in the post? Well, the first thing you have to remember, of course, is that belongs to that person, and so there has to be a respect for the original poster. It's called the OP, original poster. And the original poster has to be respected. His or her topic must be respected, and which means that you can't go off on a tangent. It is impolite and rude to then talk about something else when that was not brought into play by the original poster. That belongs in another thread, and so you have a right to start another thread, and we'll go into Facebook to put another post, a separate post talking about that subject in particular, okay, and not steal away. And I think it's called bombing, or it's called bombing a picture when someone comes into the picture. I may not be correct on that because I just don't use those terms a lot, but when someone comes into your picture and obviously and does something to distract the picture from its intended subject, which was you see, I think it's called photobombing. But that's another form of what we're talking about. You're distracting the audience from the original post's idea and concept. Okay, so that is totally rude, completely rude. So that's the first thing. That shouldn't be done. If you're going to see a post in a forum or on Facebook, then respect the original poster, respect the original concept and idea, and just speak to that. Bringing in other things that have little relevance to the original post, and then and sometimes it's necessary to talk about other things as a support to a statement about the original post, and that's fine. But then when you're reading those things, don't engage those other things. Stay with the original idea, stay with the original post. Don't go talking about one of, he may have listed 10 things, and then you're going to go and deal with one of those 10 things, which is not exactly what the original post was about. Maybe showing an example of there's other things that are red, for example, I can say. And I can say a red house, there's red cars, there's red shoes. That's for an example. So now it is totally inappropriate. It was okay for me to mention that because the original post had something to do with something being red. You understand? Or that one thing should only be red. For an example, just making something up. So then it's okay for that other person to state, well, there's really other things that are red, and then list examples of other things that are red, because they are going towards the point that I said there should be nothing else that's red. You understand? So it has to do with the original post. But then for you to come in and start talking about red shoes and where you found a good pair of red shoes, that is off the topic. That is what's called off the topic. It is away from the original post's line of reasoning and engagement, and so you're totally off base. And it is rude because you're then hijacking. There would be another term, hijacking the original post. And so that is totally unethical. It's rude. Okay, so again, remember the concept. What is rude? It's that you go away and you try to attempt to veer the attention off from the original point onto something else. Okay, that is totally rude, and so you have to understand that concept, because this is what causes a lot of debates and fighting online as well as in real life. If you were a husband and wife, and some of you do that, you're guilty. We're discussing one thing, what to do with this extra $50 that I'm making this week. And it's inappropriate then for you to be jumping around in a debate on other things. No, because 20 years ago, this and that, and but that has nothing to do with what we're going to do with this $50 now today. So again, this is we are debating now things from 20 years ago, and you have diverted the attention and the focus away from the original post, from the original point, which is what are we going to do today with these $50? Just engage what is being presented, at this time. So, this is the type of thing that goes on, and as we said, it is rude. It is rude to the original point. Now, if the original point was true, you see what happens. If there was truth in the original post, if there was truth and the original point, then what you have done was obfuscate truth. You've created a diversion from the truth onto other things. This is very it's very devilish to bring in any religious term. If you want to talk about what the devil does, I mean, it's exactly what he does. He's expert in this, in diverting your focus away from the truth. I mean, he did that in the Garden of Eden with Eve, didn't he? He said, "Oh, did God say?" Well, what he meant was, now he's going into another area, a divergence of the fact that God had said what he said. You see, so now he has created a different standard, and bringing in a different standard, when what Eve was saying was that God had said. She was repeating that which God had said. So we need to understand that when they obfuscate, obfuscate what the point was, which is, of course, Eve had to obey. It was an issue of obeying, and it wasn't an issue of understanding or interpreting what God has said, which many people believe that the devil was lying, and when he said what he said, he twisted. But there was a lot of truth in what he said. That's not the point, because the point was and always is were they supposed to obey God, and that's the bottom line. Were they supposed to obey God? And the answer is simply yes. Now we can go to other areas and understand that God had planned what he planned before all this happened. So we can debate forever on those things. But just in the point itself, the point was obedience. It wasn't interpreting what God had said. It was obedience. It was simply that. And the whole issue surrounds that in terms of man sinning. Okay, so that's where that is. So we have to understand the proper things that are being presented. But since people have issues with understanding certain things, understanding what they read, understanding what they hear, and then not respecting the rules of engagement in terms of social interaction, in terms of original posts, original threads, ideas expressed. Because you don't understand this, then we have this never-ending circle of debate and of needless verbiage going around in circles with people who will never engage the truth. Now I'm going to show you an example, and this is an example of religious organizations. I'm not going to mention it. I'm not here to offend anyone. I'm talking here about truth. It doesn't matter what church you're in or what faith you're in. I am talking about truth. I'm not talking about your religion. I'm not talking about my religion here. Truth Radio exists to speak about truth, and that is all. And it's designed to help everyone, no matter what religion they're in. Okay, it surpasses religion because it goes to the heart of the matter. Okay, not with all the misunderstandings and lack of reading comprehension that is evident in the religions of the world. Okay, so let's go back to the point. The point here is, and there's certain religions that teach their members to run away from the truth. In other words, to not engage a good point. When a good point is had, all of a sudden it's the devil. Some religions teach and train their members to when they're engaged in a conversation, and I say that lightly, in a conversation with someone, and that person gives them a resistance. They call it resistance. Yeah, you see the danger in this resistance. They told you a let's, for argument's sake, they said something that you could not answer back, you could not refute, and that would be evidence. That would be classified as evidence. It would be classified as truth, as fact, very heavily associated with truth. And so what they teach then is, when you cannot provide an answer to a statement, a statement made by the person you're trying to persuade, well, then they teach you to change the subject. Now, again, what is changing the subject? We just finished talking about changing the subject in a forum and in a Facebook post. That is rude. It is rude on the face of it. And then on the second part, it is inappropriate, because you're obfuscating the search for truth. A search for truth does not ignore challenges to your thinking. Does not ignore it. You don't go on. If your thinking has been challenged, you cannot claim to be searching for truth if you continue on to another subject. You see? And if your church is teaching you to do that, then they're teaching you to stay away from finding the truth. You have to realize this is more for you than it is for the person you're speaking with, because the person you're speaking with has come to an understanding based on the very thing that you cannot find an answer to refute with. So you cannot possibly ever convince that person, because you have not provided enough evidence to overcome the evidence that that person has discovered for themselves, you see? And so for you to then jump into another discussion, apparently looking for a discussion where you can overcome the knowledge of the person you're speaking to, does not mean that you have the truth. It just simply means that you have avoided the evidences that have been presented, and you've been trained to ignore truths. You've been trained to ignore facts. And you cannot possibly think that you have the truth, number one. And number two, you cannot possibly believe that you are pursuing truth, that you are seeking for truth. You cannot, because you inherently, your faith has taught you to avoid the truth. And that's the subject today, avoiding the truth, because you're not engaging it. You know, the thing about truth, and I'll talk about this in another segment, the thing about truth is that truth stands on its own merit. It doesn't need your help. It doesn't need you to defend it. Truth defends itself. Truth stands as a mountain. Okay? So it is there. And if people want to ignore what's staring them in the face, that is up to them. Okay? But they cannot say that they are searching for the truth, because you're totally avoiding the truth at every pass, avoiding it. And because you're changing the subject, because you're going to a different area, because you're bringing in an inappropriate and rude you brought in another subject and another topic when the original topic was not that one. So it is totally wrong. We see it in another place that I've seen it on YouTube. I saw a comment in a debate about the Sabbath and not the Sabbath. So I saw one person talk about, they were talking about a video of a minister. Again, will remain nameless. Another minister, overweight, And you ask me, well, what does that have to do with anything? Exactly my point. I mean, what does that have to do with the discussion of Sabbath? Okay, but of course, some Sabbath keeper, in their zeal to defend the truth of Sabbath, had to mention, this, and he said, this fat man, this fat man. Wow, it's just incredible. I guess that's the result of keeping the Sabbath and following God's laws, right? That we have to offend. It brings us to a state of such perfection that we then begin to offend another person. We begin to pick at that other person's reputation. You see, because we have not enough facts. We don't have enough supportive evidence of truth. We then want to start to bring down the person, and what do you call it? Degrade that person. This, on the face of it, folks, if you're really looking for truth, never agree with a person's stance who goes against, who presents as part of his evidence a criticism of the reputation of a person. Don't ever do that. That is total garbage. That tells you right off the bat that person and his stance, if he believes in what you believe and yet goes and does that, you should question what you're believing. Especially if this is religious things, because in the things of God and things of faith, if we talk about grace, and grace affects all the things that we say and all the things that we do. So how is it that you're going to go and make a derogatory statement about another person? A derogatory statement of another person that has nothing to do with the debate. You see it in Facebook when somebody makes a comment. I made a comment the other day. I've been a jovial person for all my life. I've always made jovial comments. Particularly with people that are close to me, that I know and know the family. So I've been always open and frank, and I've always been that way. And someone then taking quite rudely starts to degrade me for something that I had said, and totally, almost as if they don't know me. I said, well, this person apparently has forgotten who I have been, who I am, even. And there is, and I took a very great offense to the accusations that were made, the implications. They imply things about my personal character and other people associated with me. I took that great offensive because I was offended by that in the social shit. Not really, because you know what? Because I know where it's coming from. I understand where it's coming from. But as far as everyone listening to me, most of you wouldn't understand that as an offensive thing that happened. Again, when the offense came in that sense, I did not respond to it, because again, I use etiquette. I know there are people that have issues, there are people who have history, there's people who have medicine. There's many reasons for people to lose etiquette and not be respective of certain knowledge that they really should have. You forget it sometimes. I know that. I understand that as a counselor. So I let that go. So there's no response. I do not respond to things that are, not true. That's the first thing. So that's again, that's another thing for another show. But in any case, post, and if you look at the post, everything was hunky-dory and very nice. I was my usual self in my response that everyone in that family knows me already to be. And then the only thing that really just takes that post and throws it into the garbage was that response to me by that certain person. And again, it was rude to the original poster, and the statement that the person said, it tried to imply there was something wrong with what I was doing. If there was something wrong with what I was saying, the original poster, again, is the only one that I can really be abusive to. And if the original poster did not say anything and did not private message me, then there's no offense taken because they know me already. Now, so that's the thing. The original poster, because the original poster is the one that has the right, no one else. The original poster, if someone says something that the original poster finds offensive, then the original poster has remedies, and that should have been done. And so the other thing that we want to say here is also the fact that in social media, we're giving other opportunities to respond. It doesn't have to be in the public. It's another mistake that people do, making public statements which really should be private statements. And even if you find that something was inappropriate, it's still not appropriate for you to again use that original post to deal with that issue. That is an issue separate from the original post. So then, in Facebook, for example, there's a thing called message. It is instant messenger. There's a PM, private messaging, chat. Just click on the person's name and click on the message or chat, and tell them what you think. But don't put it on a public post, because the public, and especially when the post is not dealing with that subject, that's a different subject. And so then create another point of contact away from the original post to deal with those other matters that you found. And that's the appropriate way of doing things on Facebook, on forums, on the internet, even in personal debates, one with another person. If it's something separate, something else, then don't deal with it there. Don't get into that. If a person offends you during a debate on something, don't go into that offense. Stay away from that. Step back from that. Communicate with them later on. We're now discussing the other day, which I really appreciate that we had. I did not appreciate your saying that I'm a fat man, and that I think was inappropriate. It has nothing to do with your presentation of what you feel about the original concept, about the original debate. Bringing that in, I feel, was inappropriate. Really made you look and made your stance look bad. So again, if we want to be portrayers of truth, and you're seeking truth, then you want to stick with the original point. And you know what? If the other person brings in more information than you have, and their information seems to point that your information is wrong, and that your conclusions are wrong, then at the minimum you should, then I need your statements are convincing, and I really need more time to look into it. And then you stop that debate there. If you don't want to go further, stop it there. Say thank you for that information, and I'm going to do some more research on this. And then simply, look intelligent, for goodness sakes. But this continually back and forth, going around in circles, because you don't want to accept the truth, This is what is the greatest waste of time on this planet today, on Facebook, on forums. People avoiding the truth, and religions who train their followers to avoid the truth in their training that is the devil. And so you're actually, the religion's actually teaching you that the word of God and that the truth of facts are from the devil. And so their pack of lies becomes divine inspiration. That's all that is about. And you, if you are in any religion or any place that is teaching you not to engage the truth, to when people have more information than you do, more evidence than you do, and it is evidence that you cannot refute, then you really should engage that and begin to break away from the lies and from the errors that you have been taught. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate thing, but there's no danger for you in holding on to truth and doing away with error. You are not in danger. Now, how your standing is with your church group and your faith is a different matter, but your faith does not, the religion, I should say, does not save you. What saves you is the truth. And so the truth is what will set you free, as a great teacher once said. And so grab onto the truth and be set free, indeed, right? That is what should be done. Focus on truth, stick with the point, get the facts straight, and be free. That's it for today. What do you think? What do you think about what was just spoken and shared with you? Contact me and share your opinion. And please, stay to the point. Truth Radio with the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Catch you next time.